What is going on, everyone? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Clocking Out. I'm your host, PR, the King of Hearts. Today we are with Elizabeth. Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing very good. I love your hair. You look very good.
Thank you very much. I normally wear it in a ponytail. I feel more comfortable that way, but you gotta let it out once in a while.
Exactly. You got to switch it up every now and then. I totally hear you. So before we get started and I ask you questions pertaining to your experience in the Web3 space and how we basically have become familiar with each other through the VFriends community. And I see that you're very inspired by, I see that you're very influential in the sense of making books that'll help educate people in the Web3 space, blockchain technology, and really focus on educating kids with that. So before we get into any of that stuff, I would like to give you a second to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from, and give us a brief background of your experience in the space before we get started. So go ahead, Elizabeth, let us know.
All right. Well, my name's Elizabeth Sullivan. I am currently living in near Raleigh, North Carolina. We moved here just about 2 years ago from Iowa. That's where I grew up. Figured I would pick up and move and have some adventure somewhere else. So it's been a fun ride. I first started investing in cryptocurrency in 2018, and that kind of put me in the conversation from the get go for the basics. And then I watched it grow and develop from there. I mean, it's still developing. So, I guess what inspired this would be I went to VCon and Gary Vee challenged us to embrace educating others. And I thought, well, what can I bring to this space that would honor the developers and the coders and the engineers? I'm not one of those. And it's like, well, I can write. And so it just went from there. We can talk more about that later. But that's been basically my expertise, if you say, just explaining all this that we're doing in Web3 to kids. And I figure if I can explain it to fifth graders, that fifth grade level, then there's hope for everybody.
And can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into blockchain and AI education?
Well, from investing into cryptocurrency, and then I think Gary suggested an NFT project, and he got in deep with that project. Like I ended up starting an X account because of that. That's where all the conversation is. I got into Discord because of that NFT project, and it got deep over COVID and really made me fall in love with the community factor. And then VFriends came about, and that's a whole nother breed. So that's where it all is. It's just learning the basics. As far as AI, I think a lot of us that live online stumble into AI naturally. And so when Chat GPT was released, it was like, oh my goodness, what can I do with this before it's not available to anyone? And it was kitty bar the door with that. And so you naturally saw the conversation of AI and blockchain merge, which I find interesting to see what those intersections are. But personally, as far as blockchain goes, I love the NFT space. And I feel like there's so many concepts that, like, what is a wallet? How do I work a wallet? What are blockchain layers? What is all this lingo about? And so my expertise just came from trying to figure out the what is and the why and learning with everybody else and then teaching to other people.
I love that you mention all that because I feel like a lot of people tend to forget that there's a lot of different parts that come with the whole blockchain and NFTs or crypto and all of that aspects. I feel like they all just think of it when anyone hears anything about crypto, they automatically just think only one exists, which is Bitcoin. When they think of NFTs, they automatically, a lot of people just think scam. Like, so when you break things down like that and you show that there are many different levels to just the ecosystem of Web3 to show that there are different parts of it that you can learn and break it down. That actually, I feel like if you look at it from different parts and you break it down chunk by chunk, I think it's a lot easier not only to understand, but to see and comprehend the possibilities with Web3. I think that's what makes it really what it is nowadays, in the sense for a lot of people who really understand it compared to the people who just get into it trying to make a flip and trying to make a profit. You know, a lot of them, they don't see they don't see the code aspect by it. They just look at it like the profit side of it, where they're like, all right, how much can I put in for how long before I need to take it out and make my money? A lot of them don't see that, the NFTs can be used for more than just artwork, that blockchain can be used to track more than just the transfers of Bitcoin or any other type of crypto, or that crypto itself isn't just Bitcoin alone or Ethereum. Like, there's many different types. So it's like, when you look at it at those different aspects, I feel like people can get not only more experience in it in the sense of seeing how things work, but also once you look at it that way, it helps them also better understand what's possible with it and what you can use with it, whether you're a business owner or an entrepreneur or an artist trying to make books or artwork, or even if you're trying to utilize it in any other way with your business or any ideas that you have. So the fact that you're actually sharing that and that you mention that goes to show that you actually take the time to properly educate yourself and share that information with other people, because a lot of people say they want to teach people about blockchain, but then all they want to tell them is, listen, this is, you need a wallet and you get this crypto and you leave it in there and just don't click any links. That's it. And no one really educates you any more than that, so it's kind of hard. What would you say is something else that is really important when it comes to educating people on blockchain technology? Like, what was one of your first things that, or let me put it like this, what's something you wish you knew first before you jumped into blockchain, like when you first got in? Because I'm pretty sure you, as much as many others, when they jumped in and they learned a lot of things the hard way after messing up. Like, when they say not to click links, I know I was one of the first ones that was clicking links everywhere like an idiot, and it wasn't until I got my wallet compromised that I learned the hard way, like, maybe you shouldn't click every link and sign up for everything. So being that that's an example, what's something that you experienced that you felt like, man, I can't believe I fell for that, and I wish I should have knew this earlier?
Oh my gosh, it's embarrassing, to be honest.
It
It's so
is. I know it.
so my very first NFT that I bought actually was a fake Pudgy Penguin. A fake
Oh,
Pudgy Penguin. And of course, later you regret it more and more and more. And so I learned from that. I also learned to bet on the jockey. Gary Vee actually says that, and it's so true. Like, you can love the art, you can love the project, but you got to listen to your gut. And an organization can only go as far as a leader. And so you need to bet on the jockey if you're going to be deep in these communities for NFTs. I have I've responded to like a whitelist pre-sale DM on Instagram to get into. I'm not going to mention the project, but they were really cool, and I had been like saving up my money, and I don't know what I was thinking. Like, but also it just drives home the reason to not only reinterpret it to myself, but to other people, and to let them know just the basics, because it's so easy to get scammed and fooled, and it's only going to get worse, to be honest. Yeah, I actually, I made an NFT project that, unfortunately, when I made the smart contract, I was using like JavaScript and stuff. I love learning things from like the ground up and seeing if I can do the code. And, I copied it from, I think, Hashlips and all that. But somehow along the way, the wallet got compromised. And I noticed went very quickly when two of them sold and I wasn't getting the proceeds, that something went wrong. And so, I mean, all across the board, I've made many mistakes.
and what initially inspired you to start publishing a book a month focusing on teaching blockchain concepts, especially to children? Because I understand wanting to teach it to other people your age and other adults and everything, but what was it when you, like, was it something that initially happened when you first came into the space, or was it after some time into it and that made you say, you know what, I want to help educate other people? And what was it that made you want to focus on kids?
So, as I mentioned at the first Beacon, Gary had challenged us to education. And I felt like I was in the wrong environment for that. And I had always told other people, like, you're not a tree, you can leave. And here I was still in my hometown area, and I hadn't left, and I wanted to be a completely another version of what I was. And I didn't even know what that was yet. I knew that I liked writing. I had published a few books before this. And so we picked up and we moved. We sold everything and we moved to just try a different version of life. And it was probably the most ridiculous financial decision I've ever made. And I remember actively thinking that I am purposefully getting uncomfortable, but there's a calling, and I got to do this to become that version of me. And I don't know what that is. So we move. In October, I had shared on Twitter this fun little story of like the three little PFPs. And it was just NFT lingo that kind of followed the story of the three little pigs. And it was just fun. And then I realized that maybe I could use the NFTs that I had rights to, and turn this into a book. So I got the derivatives from an artist made of three of my NFTs and put it into a book. And it took a little bit. It was a lot of learning experience. The artwork was, around $400 to have an artist do this. I had to pay for a formatter at the time. I had to buy a code for the back of the books. But all of a sudden, it was like, okay, this book teaches NFT lingo in a very basic way, basically towards kids. And I was like, that's my education part. That's what I can bring to the table. It's like Gary challenges education, and I have another one in mind. So I started another one, the Blockchain Odyssey. And there again, I had to hire an artist. I hired him on Fiverr. It's about $300 something. It took a few months to get, and then I had to hire the formatter, and then I had to hire somebody to do the cover. I really wanted to do the art by myself, so I was actually playing on Canva. And I noticed when the artist gave me back the artwork for the book, some of those elements I had played with on Canva. I just couldn't quite make it look like they had. But the fact that I could possibly do this was there. So then Second Beacon rolls around, and I've got 2 books under my belt. And it was really fun to like bring something to this space. Like I said, I'm not an engineer or a coder or a developer. And I was like, how do I participate? But I was a writer. I was an author. I had books. And it was so cool to have that mutual respect when I came across people in the community. Like, you wrote a book, like to me, it was nothing, and what they were doing was something. And it was really cool to be able to join in the conversation there. So Second Beacon, I'm like, you know what? I have more. There's so many basic concepts that can be shared. I'm going to do a book a month until the next Beacon. Thinking, by the way, that we were going to do a spring Beacon. So it's like, why not? Well, then I made it public. And I don't like being one of those people that makes something public and it not happening.
Agreed.
It happens. It's okay to pivot. I might even have said some things that I need to pivot from now. But this, I had made like a proclamation. So it's like, okay, a book a month. And my third book, I did the artwork on it. And I had the cover designer help me a little bit, but then I found the template. So I didn't need to for the 4th book. But I thought, I can't keep paying like $300 something a month to somebody to do the artwork. And plus, it took so long to relay the idea and to get back the product. So in order to do one a month, I just had to take it all under my belt. And it's been a lot of fun. The reason why I chose kids, I guess, was because I was already on a roll with the children's book. And then it turned into, 5th graders because number 5, and they're very basic. I feel like 5th grade is on that level of where they don't quite know what you're talking about, but they kind of do. And they're entering that space. And so you really, really have to get it basic, but you want to teach them something. And so it's a great way to introduce vocabulary, to introduce concepts. And it's also like they don't mind having a book like this in their hands. To be honest, what I learned, a square book, a 5th grader doesn't want to have quite that much of a kid's book in their hand. But 5th grade can still read a children's book and learn something. And so that was kind of why the whole target that area came from. The whole thing has just been, what's next? And sometimes it's the concept, sometimes it's the characters, sometimes it's like, okay, I have a story, but what technicality can I teach? Like I shared the other day, I had an aha moment. I had the characters, I had the story. I was like, but what specifically in blockchain is it teaching? I'll give you some alpha here. it's really about mental well-being and doing things offline, and what can we do that helps us. But what blockchain concept does that teach if I'm teaching basic concepts to kids? So with a little bit of tweaking is like the aha. And now I get to do two things in one book. So that's very exciting. So yeah, doing the kids thing has just been something that can bring my skills on Canva to the table. I can learn what proof of work is and what proof of stake is in teaching it to somebody else. And it's just been a lot of fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun.
I love that you're mentioning all that, because everything that you're saying really is stuff that a lot of people tend to overlook, in the sense of what it takes to not only just stay motivated and consistent when they're working on something that they're passionate about, but they're actually working towards some goal, and there's steps to get to that goal. A lot of people forget that yes, there's like, you want to make a book, you want to do this, but you have to, not only is it making the story and having the characters, but like you mentioned, like, you have to go and buy the barcode for the back of the book. A lot of people forget things like that, or that you have to
Oh,
have a specific type of dimensions for the pages for the artwork, or a certain type of JPEG, or like, I really don't know. I've never done anything like that, but I know for a fact that the more and more I was hearing you talk about things, I was also thinking about stuff that I never even really came to realize comes into making a book. Like, you mentioned so many different steps of how you had to go and look for all these other different people, and in my mind I'm like, you know what, she's right, because in my mind I'm thinking you just have to have a story and a character and that's it, you're good to go. And it's not like that whatsoever, especially when you're trying to sell something and you're putting it online. Like, there's a lot more in the process that it goes into, that I feel like a lot of people forget. But also, while you're going through that process, you started realizing that there were things you didn't have to pay for, that you could do yourself if you just took the time to learn. So it's like all those things, I feel like it's all it's a method to the madness, but at the same time it's all necessary, because whether it's necessary to get the job done, it's necessary to go through those steps, because if you didn't go through those steps, whether you paid for it at first or not, you wouldn't have realized that there were things that you could do yourself that you didn't need to hire somebody for.
so speaking of that, actually, I took a gamble on myself from the get-go. If you go to, I go to, where was it? Bowker, BOWKER.com, and you buy the ISBN on there. That's the little number on top of the barcode that identifies the book across the board wherever it's sold. It's like its social security number. So you go to Bowker, and I had bought a couple of those ISBNs, but then I realized in order to do a book a month, I'm going to need a whole lot more. So I took a gamble and spent hundreds of dollars to get the 100 package of ISBNs instead of like the pack of 25. Also, at that time, I was doing them in print and ebook version, and you need a different identification number for each version. If you do an Audible, it needs to be a different one also. So I was thinking 2 times 12 at the time, because like I said, VCon we thought might be in the spring. Turns out there's 16 books instead of like 12 books. So that's been more of a challenge, but I'm really glad. That being said, that I took the gamble and spent, I want to say it was like 600 or 800 bucks. And now when I'm done, I'll still have a few ISBNs left and I can keep making books. So that's really cool. But not only on the financial gamble of learning that, I also ended up making WAGMI Consulting Group an official company, because in doing my research, so I cannot submit my book and get it approved by an editor, publisher, in time to do the book a month. Same thing with the art. So I ended up making a company so that the company can do my books through Ingram Spark, and it kind of cuts out the middleman. So then the proceeds can go to me in a sense, instead of like, the funnel system is just interesting to learn. So yeah, the financial side has been a big learning experience. It's all in faith, but a little bit at a time, and you just find out what works, and that's why you save where you can and you do what you can to save.
100%, bro. You asked for the link. I just put the link to her books, where you can go and check out what she has available on in the chat. I was trying to put it up on the screen, but for some reason it wasn't letting me. So I put it in the chat, bro. So you can go and check it out. Also, for anyone that's listening or watching this, whether you're watching live or watching a pre-recording, I'm gonna have all Elizabeth's social medias, as well as her links to any of her products in the description listed. So wherever you're listening to this or watching this and you would like to go and follow and support Elizabeth or check out what she has when it comes to her books, please check out the information that's listed in the description of this podcast episode, wherever you're listening and watching. And Elizabeth, you mentioned that, you basically got inspired after VCon from what Gary said, and you wanted to utilize what you were already doing with kids' books, and you basically made a goal that you wanted to just challenge yourself and create a book a month. And it's as you were explaining to us in the process of what everything that you were doing and everything you were learning, it's definitely not easy. It's a lot of stuff that goes into it, a lot of things that you learned along the way while you were in the process of making this. What are some of your biggest role models or sources of inspiration when it comes to your work, and what kept you going anytime that you came across a moment or an obstacle that you were like, you know what, this is too much or it's too stressful? When you came across those moments, who was it that you would go look to or refer to keep you motivated and keep you going, that really inspires you, not only in what you're doing, but in the work that you're creating?
I've seen a few V-Friends in the community do challenges for a year long, and I've watched their journeys. I've been able to support them in some of the things that they've created or the challenges that they've done. I would say that that is a piece of the inspiration, is seeing somebody dedicate a portion of their life and get results that are just admirable. The funny thing is, we don't realize that that's attainable for everybody. We just have to be willing to actually do it like they did. So when I feel like giving up, that is one thing that comes into mind, is there's a bigger purpose in the long run game. Plus, I'm not really one to give up. I mean, I've fought really hard for what I'm doing right now, and not everybody, it's not, I can tell you this, when you're going after a goal and it's going to take up a lot of your time and a lot of your discipline and a lot of your thought, and like, you're just, when I have a book going on, I'm in the book. People may support you in your goal, but they're sacrificing something too. They're sacrificing a portion of you that they once enjoyed because you're sacrificing maybe time and attention to a passion project. And so it's a lot to ask across the board. So that inspiration needs to be there from, communities and such. I also draw inspiration from, I like to do morning listening. And currently it's Eddie Pinero's Your World Within. He posts almost daily, like on YouTube and such. And I just play it when I'm getting ready or on my drive time. So there's points where I can be my own motivator, but there are other points where I need to look within the community or, reprocess my thoughts with this type of listening that, I really adapted in order to, oh yeah, that's who I am, and dig back into that. I can't say that I follow any other authors really. I haven't been able to read a lot actually because of this, and I don't explore other authors a lot because I want my work to be authentically mine, and I want my thoughts to be authentically mine. It's the same thing like before I'm, giving a speech at Toastmasters. We don't try to listen to things beforehand because you don't want to just repeat something you just heard.
True.
And so I feel like that's how the books have been, other than it's a constant thing, it's that I don't really have a lot of people that I'm letting in my mind right now. I haven't documented it very much either, because that was probably my one regret in this whole thing, is not documenting enough. But I'm really trying to do something here. And I know it's a tough decision and maybe a dumb decision, but if I have 5 minutes to put towards something, I'd rather that be towards editing or moving a character around or adding a shadow under the feet or researching a topic than 15 minutes of editing what I want to post. So time is really an asset right now.
No, I completely agree with you, and I can relate to you on that as well, because I've been trying to take podcasting and content creating more seriously also as well, and it's not easy. It's not easy. One, trying to balance. It's not easy in general, because when you're a regular person, I mean, and I say regular, I mean a person that has to balance a regular 9 to 5 job and the regular day-to-day life stuff, and then they have this. Like, a lot of people tend to think that as soon as you start this, whether it's content creating or making books or making artwork or starting anything whatsoever online, they automatically assume that you're just making money and you're successful and you're good and this is all you do every day, all day. And that's not the
No.
case. Some people forget, like, all right, yeah, you may see us posting a lot and sharing a lot of what's going on, but you forget that we're regular people with regular lives who have bills and have kids and have families and friends and like other things going on. Like the same way that you take and carve out a specific time of your day to watch all the stuff that we do, or watch a specific content creator or artist or actor or entertainer, whatever it is, that's the same thing we have to do to make the stuff, to put it out there. Like we all get the same amount of hours throughout the day as anybody else. The difference is how we go about allocating our day, where we dedicate specific time to specific things, you know. And when you're a creator and you're someone who has all these ideas, it gets really stressful sometimes because you feel like you're either not moving enough or you feel like you don't have enough time. Like, so it's always that constant battle. So I totally agree with you on that. And that was something else that I wanted to ask you too. But before I get to the question, I wanted to mention it. Like, it's something really, it's really good that you mentioned that as an artist and a creator, that you tend to not want to jumble up and have all these other ideas of other people's stuff in your mind, especially when you're trying to be original and come up with something different. It becomes really hard. Like if it's not you battling being critiqued and compared by other people, you do it to yourself, and it kind of stops you and slows you down sometimes, because you feel like, was this something I did before? Was this something someone else did before? Is this original? Like it kind of gets to that point sometimes, especially when you're working nonstop and always trying to think of something new. The second that you have like a really good idea, you start questioning yourself, like, wait, hold on, did I really come up with this? Or if not, if you know you have an original idea and you share it with someone, the worst is someone goes, oh yeah, that's just like what this person did, and then you're like, damn, like I thought I had something, you know, like. So it's
Hmm.
things like that that really get to you, especially when you're trying, because in this space, I think another thing that gets very overlooked is the thing about communicating and collaborating with other people. There's a big benefit to it, but at the same time, it can be very damaging sometimes to your creative side, because you start again comparing yourself, or you start feeling like you're mixing too many other people's opinions or ideas with your own, and you don't know how to separate it, and you don't know how to really organize it good. So, bringing all of that up, I wanted to ask you next, how do you balance the creativity of writing with the technical aspect of explaining complex topics like blockchain to children? Because I feel like just explaining that to a normal adult or someone our age is already complicated enough. How do you find a way to go about explaining that to someone who's younger in a way that they won't feel like it's too much to process?
That's an easy answer. So sometimes it's the concept, sometimes it's the storyline, but once I kind of have it, AI helps me. There's a lot of prompting. So these are not AI books by any means, but it really helps me weave in a concept or reword something, or even bring it back down or bring it up. Sometimes things aren't complex enough. I've oversimplified it, and we know that it's not that simple. And so I definitely use the technology that we have at hand, and AI helps me like fine tune how to say what I need to say.
And have you ever come across something that you felt like was like, have you ever worked on something really hard and then when you got down to the end of it, you felt like it was either too complicated that no one else was going to understand but yourself? And
Yeah.
so how do you handle that? Because I've gotten to situations like that where I get caught up in this idea, and then I get to the point where I forget, like, all right, no one's in my head. They're not going to understand it like me. So what am I going to do with this? Like, what do you do with that when you get to that? Because I know it's frustrating to either destroy or abandon one of your own projects or ideas. It's never hard. It's never easy. But like when you do you tend to like keep them and then like reuse them later, or do you just change them up a bit, or like how do you go about handling a situation like that where you feel like you created someone no one gets but you?
Well, I have a book that it doesn't need to come out. It probably will never come out. But I like went down this little rabbit hole of is it zero knowledge protocols? ZKP. I was like, nobody needs to know what ZKPs are, other than unless you're like a developer or something. And so there have definitely been concepts that I'm like, this is unnecessary. There's other things that I actually don't want to share about, because what if I do bring them to life and what if I don't? You know,
100%.
like it doesn't really matter to me whether people get it or not. That's the whole point of what I'm doing. Is, yeah, you don't like blockchain the kids. They don't need to know this financial thing, but they're going to be using all of this stuff that we're creating. And the best part is the adults might think that these are books for kids, but the adults want to read them and they're going to read them to their kids so that they can learn as well. And also, if you're in the space, you're kind of digging that there's a children's book to introduce some of the stuff that we do online to our kids. You're going to be the purchaser for the kids. The kids aren't spending the money and they're not asking to learn this stuff. But if I can make it fun enough once they get it, but I do know that it's the adults that are doing it. But I've stopped explaining myself a long time ago. Actually, I stopped explaining myself, and the things that people won't really understand, I either table or I still do. You know, I figure we're still teaching the ABCs to kids in books, in characters, in music. There's always a new one coming out. And if we can do something as redundant and repetitive for years as the ABCs, then I can do this. You know, there's a niche for this too. So it doesn't matter if other people get it or not. What matters is if I produce.
I love that. I love that you said that. A lot of people get caught up in the whole thing of like trying to keep up with what's going on online, and I think like that damages a lot of good things, or the potential of something great that can happen. People have these great ideas, and then as soon as they put it out there, or they start making, or they build up some traction online, or with whatever they're doing, they start getting too occupied with the whole idea of what do they want, or what's popular, or what's everybody else doing, when really the whole reason anyone started following in the beginning, even though it may not seem like it, is because you're being yourself. You're offering and you're sharing something that's unique to you, and it's your vision that no one else can see, and that no one else can actually make come to real life. And a lot of us tend to damage that by getting caught up with trying to keep up with what's popular and what everyone else is doing and all that stuff. So I like the fact that you mentioned that, and that, you know, you really stopped caring about what other people think. I think that's something that a lot of people need to embrace more and practice more, and not only to help them be more comfortable in their own skin, but I feel like that just helps you be more original, and originality inspires more creativity, I feel. And that's something that we need, you know, we need more people to be themselves, and help us just become in tune with that, you know, and be more comfortable with just whatever we think of saying, we say it. Whatever we think of doing, just do it, instead of holding ourselves back and thinking so much. And then the time comes later on in the future, we have more questions in our mind of why didn't we, and what if, and oh, if only we could go back. And you know, I think life is too short for that. So the fact that you're actually passing that point and actually being brave enough to just be yourself no matter what it is, and put out your thoughts and ideas, that's something that I really applaud you on, because it's not easy. It's not easy to just be yourself publicly online, and it's not easy to share your thoughts and ideas knowing that they're going to get critiqued, and knowing that they're not everyone is going to agree or like it, you know. And then to go through the struggle of one, paying for something that you're not sure about if anyone's going to accept, or you know, going through the process and the stress of designing things and planning it out and all. Like, it's not easy just to do all that for the hell of it, you know. So when you know for a fact that you have a goal and you have a passion behind everything that you're doing, it's definitely important to make sure that you're confident enough in yourself and everything that you believe that you can do. So I'm really excited that you're taking those steps. You know, when I saw how many books that you actually had, I thought you literally only had one book. And then the more and more I started reading, I was like, wait, hold on, she's dropping a book a month. I was like, no wonder. I was like, I kept thinking I was seeing the one same book. I'm like, yo, this book is going to be huge, because I'm constantly seeing all these different characters and everything. And then when I really went and I took the time to look, I'm like, all right, see, this makes a lot more sense now, because for a while I kept seeing all these different characters. I'm like, yo, the character keeps changing.
What
The
is this
story is like,
story?
I'm like, yo, this is one long ass story. Like, and then I started
You
understanding. I
know?
was like, there are multiple stories. I'm like, okay, this makes a lot more sense now.
That's a
Um,
surprise to me too. I shared a picture the other day. I was laying out the books. I'm telling you, I don't have time to think. I actually don't really have time to celebrate my wins longer than maybe a post. You know, the book came out yesterday. Rah, next book.
I hear
So it
you.
was fun laying them out. Like the other week, I was trying to figure out. I didn't have copies of some because it is hard to keep up and order some. I only had two copies of one, and but they were all laid out. and some were still missing. Is like, that's a lot of books. Like, I don't know if I've wrapped my head around it yet. I don't have time to. It's a lot of fun though.
But I love it. I love that, and I can relate. It's also like this recording. I record stuff, and honestly, as
Yeah.
soon as I record, I don't really have the time. Like we have great recordings and great conversations, and it's like I go over it while I'm editing, but then as soon as I'm done, I got to go to the next one and reschedule the next person and the next week, and then it goes from you thinking like, oh, I only got one or two, and then it becomes such a consistent workflow that days and weeks and months go by and you don't even know it, and you have this catalog of all the stuff that you have, not only showing what you've done, but showing your progression of where you started and how it was when you first started compared to the book you're on now or compared to the episode you're on now. And it's a great way to look back and see your growth. And then each time, I'm pretty sure when you look at each book, there's certain things that you remember specifically from each book you
Oh,
were making it.
yeah.
Whether, if it was not getting things on time or designing it or like, but I'm pretty, matter of fact, share us some stories of anything you have, like on a specific book that you have that, when you look at it, you're like, all right, this one was like a real headache, or this one almost didn't come out, or like.
Okay. I don't want to bring down the tone too much, but I've been pretty open. I have incredibly severe asthma. That is the hand I was dealt with in life. That's my one thing that can take me out of this world at any moment. And to be honest, back in 2021, it almost did take me out of this world. I had an incredibly severe asthma attack. It had been going on, like the struggle to breathe had been going on for over a month. As a matter of fact, a couple weeks before an incident, I was driving with my best friend. She was driving me, and I had her read the will that I've written out. And I assigned, like, okay, I need you to help take care of my social media and let my friends know and protect my photos for the kids, but, make sure to turn it off. And I just it was the fact of not being able to breathe was imminent. And then it came to a head one day, and I went in and into the emergency room. They had to transport me to another hospital. And I just remember like counting the street lights in the ambulance and just trying to like give every little breath. And then so that was on a Friday. And then I woke up on a Tuesday. So I'd been intubated, and I don't really remember much in between, thank goodness. I was pretty out of it. But on Tuesday evening, I was alone in my hospital room, and I turned on the TV and I watched the local news. And this is going to sound so pious, so I'm trying to humble myself and sharing this with you. This is authentically my thought pattern. So I turned on the TV, I'm watching the local news, and I realized that nobody would have known I was gone. Nobody even knew that I was in that hospital room. Like it didn't matter enough to be on the local news. And it hit me like this little voice on one side of the shoulder was like laughing at me. Like, of course nobody would know. Like, you haven't done anything big enough yet. But I clung to that word enough. Big enough. Yet. Enough. And it's like, okay, what can I do that's enough? Then 3 weeks later, my littlest brother passed away. And it was very sudden, and it was tough, but my mom told me that she felt like she gave up one child for another. And she always knew that she would have to sacrifice something big, but that I was going to do something big because God had obviously chosen for me to still be able to breathe the next day. So that kind of weighed on me, like there's something about basically almost dying that's incredibly freeing. And it's like, okay, every day is a gift. Every day that I wake up, what can I do today? Because tomorrow's not promised. It brings me to the story of one of my books. So actually, it's this one, Adventures Beyond Reality. This one is about my littlest son, Carver, and it wasn't going to be a book. I just written one for him, and I took out the paper and I handed it to him on a road trip. I was like, hey, I wrote a story about you. And he wanted to see it in a book. He thought it was cool. He actually read it because the family doesn't really read the books very much. So he actually read it and was super excited about it coming out. And so we're working together. The characters, this little boy that looks like him. It's about the little boy exploring the metaverse, with his Oculus, because my son Carver loves to do that. And I was so happy because I clicked publish the night before I had another very severe asthma attack. that also revealed a few things. But the next day I was like, thank goodness. Like I'm sitting in the hospital bed, I'm breathing much better at this point. And I was like, thank goodness that book is click publish and it's out for the month and I don't have to worry about that now. And also, what if I had gone and just like taking, and it was one of those 5-minute action steps where I have a moment, click, like there's a little bit every time. It was one of those moments I was like, thank goodness I had the discipline to go up and put 5 minutes to get this out real quick, because I could have put it off for tomorrow. It would have still been out, in time, but I might not have been here. And so that was one story that really stood out, is the fact that each one it could be the last. Everything that you do really could be your last impact on the world. And it would have been such a shame for me to not let my little Carver have a book about himself put out by his mom. So, but I did realize in that moment, okay, what if I do go? Because I feel like, it might be sooner than others, and I'm ready for that. Right now, like, I have bonus life, so this is a lot of fun. But if I do go, what happens to the proceeds of the books? So I actually haven't done it yet, but that's on the to-do list, is figure out, how to dedicate that in some sort of formal will. So that revealed that, but that's just the story that I can think of off the top of my head.
But still, that's still very incredible. It's I'm sorry for your loss, first of all.
Thank you.
And it goes to show how much you really care about this, about the message that you're trying to put out there, about how important it is to you. It's like you mentioned that, like, we all think about we all get to the point where we think about the legacy. What's
Yeah.
the legacy we're going to leave behind? What's and it's like Gary says a lot also, it's about the funeral. Who's going to show up to your funeral? Like, are you living your life to the point where people are going to care about you, that you're gone, or that you did something impactful? And so it's not easy. It's not easy to think about that. And it sucks because a lot of us don't get that wake up call, or don't realize that until that moment of something really life changing happens,
Yeah.
and or we come across someone else. It's like, we always hear from a lot of people, like, you think your life is bad until you meet someone else who has it worse. And it sucks because some of us don't have that opportunity. I believe everyone should have that opportunity of meeting someone who has a rough life, so that they can wake up and they don't have to experience something traumatizing to be like, what, today's the day I got to change things. It sucks, but sometimes that's what it takes. It takes us having that life or death situation happen, where it's something to us or someone that we care about, and it makes us really wake up and realize that, tomorrow isn't promised, and we should stop saying that we're going to hold things off until tomorrow, or maybe later, or the next day, or next week, especially when it's something that you care about, or something that you feel is like what you're meant to do. I believe all of us are meant to do something on this earth in one way or another, whether it's creating something, or being there for someone else, or just saying that one thing that someone needs to hear, or a group of people. I strongly believe in that. I don't believe that any of us are here just because. I think everyone, no matter what your age is, no matter what your race is, or what you believe in or don't, I believe everyone has a purpose here for something. And
Mhm.
to see that you've gone through all these things, and still, while you're fighting for your life, basically, you're the first thing on your mind is like the book. I got to get the book out, at least the book. Like, that's just crazy, but it goes to show that, like, it's something you really deeply care about, and it's something that you're really focused on about. And like, even with your last breath, you're like, you know what, I'm publishing this. I don't give a fuck what anyone cares. This is going out, like, one way or another. Like, and it's just the meaning behind it. I'm pretty sure that each book, like I mentioned, and like you were sharing, each book has a story behind it, and it's more than just the story that's in the book, but it has your own story, your own journey, your own process, your own experience. Like, for yourself, it's going to be something. For anyone else who buys it and who reads it, and like the person who that you share this experience with, or you share the books with, or Carver, or anything, like, all those things are going to be moments that people are going to remember, and it's going to be more than just something small to them. So it's like, for you to still battle something that's that serious that could literally take your life and still be like, you know what, at least I got the book out. It's just, it goes to show how dedicated you are behind this and your vision and your idea and whatever it is that you're driven to do. And that's not many people can say that. A lot of people would have been like, you know what, forget this, I almost died and I'm carrying, like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people would brush things off like that, because I feel like anyone who does things like that is someone who it's something that doesn't really matter to them that much, you know. But if you're really on it that much and you're like, you know what, I know there's something here, I know that this is something I'm meant to do and I enjoy doing and I'm good at, and you keep going with it no matter what. Nothing's going to stop you from wanting to do it or continuing to get better. Or so it's not, that's something, it's rare. It's rare for someone to have that.
Can I say though, the why has to be really big for that? Like it has to be bigger than you not being able to breathe. I love, by the way, the fact that Eric Thomas was a speaker last year at VCon, because like he has this line that I live by, and he doesn't, to me, it's meaningful. He says, when you want to breathe as bad, or when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. Yes. And when you don't have air, you have no idea like how bad that is. When you live without normal air, like that's really, really bad. So I feel like the level of that quote is, yeah, it's there. But it, like I said, there has to be a bigger why than that. So let me ask you, how many of us know our great grandparents' name? First name, last name, personal story. So it's, you might know your great grandparents. That's 2 generations. It's something, you have to do something to actually leave an impact on this world to be remembered past 3 generations. That's what I love about books. I love reading books like Shakespeare and things that people thought of so long ago that they were brave enough to put out and put on paper and let other people, they were brave enough to reveal it. And because of that, we can still learn, decades beyond. So the why kind of goes back to that little aha moment. Like, I haven't done anything big enough. It's like, I want existing here to matter. Like, I don't want to go through all these struggles of life for no reason, but how long do I want it to matter? I want it to matter for much longer than the next few generations to forget my name. And so in order to do that, especially if you're looking at like a short span of maybe life to fit it in, like you got to go for a goal and go for it hard, no matter what. Every day counts.
I agree. It does. It's like I said, it's one of those things that when you hear people say it, you're like, yeah. It's like, tomorrow isn't promised and every day counts and
it's not.
save
It
money,
really
and it really isn't. But people just like, whatever. And then it's not until that moment that you really get that day where it's like, yo, is today the day? And then when you live past that, or you get past that moment of fear or a life-threatening situation, because I've had those moments myself, like since I was a kid until an adult. Like we always get those days or those moments or experiences where like, what am I gonna do after this, or my life is over, or what, like, but those real moments where you feel like that this is it, and then you get through it, you feel totally different. And the number one thing that you think about is like, I was gonna die, or I wasn't gonna be here, I wouldn't have been here today or the next, like. And it's like you mentioned, no one would have noticed. What did I leave behind? No one cared. And like it really puts things in perspective for you.
Well, and death is a funny thing. Like, first off, it's inevitable, right? Second off, when you have almost died, you realize how futile it is to live for other people's opinions. So that kind of goes, it's like when you die, you finally get to live, in a sense, when you almost. But the other thing is also the fact that my brother had passed away a few weeks after me, and yet the day after, people were still going on with their life. That hits you too. And those events like happening back to back, it was like, it's one thing to recognize, the mortality motivation. I think that's actually a thing, mortality motivation. We're all going to go, so what are you going to do with it? It's quite another to understand that people move on within 48, 72 hours, a week. Like, people very quickly move on. Maybe not those close to you, but if you're going to leave a legacy, people can't move on so quick. It shouldn't be people posting a Facebook picture on the anniversary of for your life to be remembered.
100%.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, and that those are things that I worry about it as well, especially as a parent. Like you think about what you're leaving your kids, or you think about what your kids are going to remember you as. Especially when I do things like this online, I feel like it's going to live online forever. That doesn't mean you're going to be popular enough for everyone to see your stuff, but a good amount of people who know you will see your stuff, especially your kids. They're going to be curious at some point, like, dad or mom had this online at this time. Well, let me go look it up, or let me go check it out. And you always think about what they're going to see, what they're going to remember you by. And it's one of those things, like, you feel like, did I do a good job? Did I leave something worth remembering me by, or worth saying, like, yeah, that's my mom, that's my dad, that's my brother, my sister, my cousin, whatever. So a lot of that comes into play with a lot of us when it comes to what we're thinking about before we try to either create or express ourselves, or try and chase a dream or a goal or anything like that. I know it's not easy. Those are a lot of things that come into play when you try to make that decision of whether or not you're going to take that first step or not, and it's never easy. What I wanted to ask you next are some things related to your goals and the future. Like, what are some of your biggest goals for the future, both in terms of your writing and your work in the blockchain education?
So I don't know when I'm going to be done explaining topics, because every time, like, there's just a new topic I want to explain. So I'm not going to make like a public commitment of it's going to be one a month. I don't think I don't think August will be my last children's book. A personal goal with writing is, I feel like I've had a hand over my mouth for years, and yet I have something to say, and it's about my personal life. So I think it'd be really cool to write, not really a biography, not really a how-to, but some sort of a personal development book. Maybe something nice and thick with a lot of words in it. So that would be a personal goal. As far as blockchain goes, I'd like to tie them into the books in a way that gives you utility and maybe physical rewards. So there's that. Not gonna say too much there.
And are there any, let's say, like, projects or any other books that you feel like, not necessarily, because I could tell from everything that you're sharing and everything that you're doing, I could tell that you're doing things a little bit different than any other author would do with books, especially by trying to utilize and saying that you would like to utilize, blockchain into it, by giving them something not only digitally, but a physical version of something. Is there anything else that you feel like is an inspiration to that, or you feel like is something similar to that you inspire to be, or that inspires you to take that route? Or do you just feel like this is something that's not out there yet, so this is the reason you're going to do it?
So my only long-term goal actually doesn't really have to do with books. The books is just a calling. Every month, every topic, every inspiration. I actually had like an aha moment, and I had to get this asthma journal out. I did it over a weekend in between getting all these books out. So it's been one of those journeys, I guess, like whatever comes, I need to bring it to life. And now I have all the skills to do it. So it is like, let's go. As long as I got air to breathe, like, got the skills, I got the ISBNs. But my long-term goal, I only have one, because I don't know what long-term looks like. I would love one day to give a TED talk, not even TEDx. I want to give a TED talk. So I've been going to Toastmasters since the day, actually, basically the day that we moved to North Carolina. I've been going basically every Monday and working on public speaking and communication. That would be my one goal. But I also don't know what I have to say yet. I know I have something to say, and I know where I need to say it. So I'm just working on all the little things, like your body language and your vocal variety and piecing a speech together and not being nervous on stage, so that I can work up to the version of me that's going to require me to have all those skills once I have what I want to say. I feel like maybe writing a book about things I've learned will help contribute to finally identifying what that TED Talk's going to be. And then eventually I'll get invited and I'll give the TED Talk. So that's the only long term goal that I have. beyond that, I am literally along for this ride in life. Like, I'm loving it, and every day is a gift, and tomorrow's not promised. So, what are we going to do today?
I love it. I love how you're like really on it and like you're just like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going for it. I want to do this, this, this. There's no ifs, ands, or maybe. I'm gonna do it. It's just gonna take time and I'm here for it. Like I love it.
It's
I
fun
love
that way.
Yes, you're right. You're cool. It's scary, but the more and more, it's like you mentioned, like you're putting yourself in an uncomfortable position. But the more and more that you do it, you get really comfortable with being uncomfortable, and it just becomes
Yeah.
second nature. Like, all right, this is no different than the last time, so screw it. With like, what do I have to lose? Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned a lot of stuff that you were doing again, no different than the processes you took of learning what you needed to do to make your books. You're explaining how you wanted to do a TED talk, and you're taking the steps. You're showing up to all these different events virtually and everything like that. You're getting the experience that you need firsthand so that you can do it. The same way that you went for looking an artist and all these different things that you needed for the book, and in that process you learned that you could do it yourself. You're doing the same thing with speaking. You're learning everything, body language and how to speak and present yourself and everything. Could you give some advice, or what's some advice that you would give to others who are passionate about blockchain or AI and want to create educational content, whether for other people such as themselves or children or just in general? Like, give us some things based off your experience that helped you, that you would give to advise someone else in order to take the same step to make a path in that career or in that section of what they're trying to do.
Let's say three things. One would be yourself. Don't try to, I did try learning how to, put a code together on a smart contract. I've tried learning a lot of elements in the blockchain space that weren't me. And so that would be the first idea, would be yourself. The second thing I would say is know who you're talking to. That really helps define it when you know what age the audience is. Once I didn't even have that for my first couple of books, but once I decided, after getting asked, oh, what level is this for? Oh, I guess I have to create a grade that would read this. Fifth grade. Why number 5? That's 5. Okay, that's 5. Number 5, fifth grade. Let's do it. So but that helped. So who are you talking to? Who's your audience? Figure out the level. And then also, the third tip that I would have would be, don't be afraid to see something that other people can't see. Like we talked about, bringing it to life when other people are saying no. But if you've already figured out your audience and you've already addressed your gifts, then your gut is probably telling you that you're the one to bring that particular message out. And it might not look like everything else. It might not be as professional as maybe like a teacher can put out amazing curriculum. What if you tried to do that? It's going to look different, but sometimes different is fun. So those would be my three pieces of advice.
And as far as when it comes to creating, I know that you mentioned using Fiverr and like a whole bunch of other things, and like prompts and things like that with AI. What are some things that you would recommend people to try out to help them? Because like you mentioned before, and like I was saying, we all have regular lives. We have jobs, we have bills, we have kids, we're parents, we're friends, and what we do. It's hard finding a balance between work and what we have a passion for. So what are some things that you would recommend people to take advantage of or to try out that you utilize that helped you productively? And also some, I guess, some tips and tricks as far as managing your time and strategies on what you went on for executing these books and how you pushed them out.
Well, to be honest, balance is silly because it's life. Like, whether your work or play, it is life. So what do you want that life to look like? I feel like finding balance is futile when you have a purpose. Um, to be honest, I've touted it a lot. I do that 5 minutes of action every day. It came from a book that I read. It's Chop Wood, Carry Water, and Pound the Stone. Joshua Metcalf wrote these books, and in one of them, he gives the analogy of like, so you have a tree and it's out in your yard, and you go to chop it down, and you take 5 chops every day to the tree. Well, eventually the tree will fall. Now it's going to depend on how sharp your axe is, how strong you are, how big the tree is, how healthy the tree is. but eventually the tree will fall. You just got to 5 chops every day. And so I thought that as a version of the 5 minute rule, and it's not specifically 5 minutes, but the concept is literally, if you have a second of time, what are you doing with it? So I'm not super into TV. I don't right now. Writing is what I do. The kids are kind of in their video game era. So what am I doing with that? You can only clean the house so many times. Like that just stays the way. Like, so my point is taking all these little minutes that I have and putting some sort of action into the book. And maybe it's downtime, even on your break at work or early in the morning with your coffee. And eventually you just kind of follow your feet there. But you always have a few minutes of action to put into a big goal. And that would be my thing. Like sometimes it can be researching a topic or editing. I like to keep my manuscripts on paper as well as in a Google Doc in the cloud. So I have options where if I'm at somewhere where it's rude to be on the phone or the computer or something, and I need to sit there and wait, maybe a doctor's office waiting room, I can pull out the paper and edit, oh, I want to say this differently, or make a note, I need to add more dialogue, and all that. Or if I do have access on my phone and I'm just sitting around waiting for the kids at practice, well, I can put in all those edits on the Google Doc on the cloud. So they were done in paper, and now I can make them happen on there. Sometimes if I'm at home, a few minutes is literally just going up to the computer and sitting down and working on those illustrations. That's really hard. But what I've also found in moments like that, doesn't matter if it's hard, it needs done, especially when you're doing one a month. So people make this into like some big thing. And yeah, if you look at it, it's a big mountain that you have to climb. But if you just look at taking a walk, that's a little bit differently. So I find that if I'm only there for 5 minutes, I'm still proud of myself. Like, great, that was 5 minutes and it got me a little bit closer. But I also find that even when I don't feel like it or don't know the direction that sitting down doing the illustrations is going, if I give myself 5 minutes and all of a sudden I look up and it's an hour later and I have 3 pages illustrated and a full-blown concept in mind, that 5 minutes paid off. And sometimes it's just like going to the gym. Like sometimes you literally have to make yourself do it and follow your feet. But once you're there, sometimes you get into the flow, and that flow state is magical. So that 5 minute rule has been the key, just some sort of action with the time that you have. It doesn't have to be this whole like, well, I'm going to do like 1,000 words a day, or between 8 and 9 p.m. while the kids are this and this, I'm going to sit down at the computer. No, it's like, you got 5 minutes, let's go do it. Or you don't feel like it, let's just put in 5 and see where it takes us. That's magical. It really is.
I agree with you. It is. It's about time management. I believe if you really care about it enough and you obsess about it enough, you'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. And especially if it's something that you truly care about, I strongly believe in that. It's a lot of people hear that and a lot of them like, oh, no one has the time. If you have the time to watch Netflix and scroll on your phone and everything, it's just about, are you going to make the decision over this or that? That's really what it comes down to. And if you're going to weigh your options of what you're going to be able to achieve with that time, even like you said, even if it's just 5 minutes, 5 seconds, whatever, it's putting in that little bit of time, because those few seconds or few minutes each day are going to add up, and they're going to come up to you finishing something that you really didn't think that you can do, and you'll be surprised. So I've been in that position myself too, where I kept telling myself, oh, that's not going to do nothing, or putting aside this time each day, or reading just 2 or 3 pages a day, or putting $1 away a day, or like those little things. We think it's so dumb, but when you really start putting those things into practice, you really start getting surprised as to how much you're able to save, or how much you're able to get done, or how much you're able to get through in that book. Or it's really surprising. It's one of those things. It's no different than the time. It's you think only a few minutes go by, and really like an hour goes by like nothing. And it's because you're doing something you're passionate about. It's the same way in reverse, where if you just take a little bit of effort each day towards it, you won't know that that's going to build up to a big amount of effort that you put in over time, and it's going to make a big difference. I strongly believe in that.
Well,
um
what bugs me is like when like people have a goal and that they have potential, and yet they make it into like this big thing. Like, when we talk about time management and then all of a sudden, like maybe calendars come to mind or dedicating, like, I just don't think that our goals need to be these big issues that we need to make up. Like, it's just way more informal than that. Like, just do it, do some sort of action. And that's, like I said, if you look at the mountain, yeah, like if I had 16 books, like if I had really known, and even to this day, if I think about, oh, I still need to do illustrations or I still have blah, blah, blah books to go, like that would be very defeating. So part of it's the mentality factor of over dramatizing and adding up all these little steps, which are actually reasons why we can't, into our goals that prevent us from doing it, instead of looking at all these micro moments that are not in the calendar and not organized, but that are there to grasp that we actually can achieve our goal. I don't like it when people don't see their potential, and I'm not going to do that to myself.
100%. I agree with you. What I wanted to ask you next is, with all the stuff that you mentioned about all the things that you go through in the process of making the book, how do you handle the challenges and setbacks that you have had to deal with encountering writing and publishing? Because I know creating a book and everything is one thing, but actually pushing it out there for people to buy and be ready to purchase, and then having it on Amazon, and that's another thing I wanted to ask you too before I get on that. Where else can people get your book besides for Amazon or any of your books?
So I'll answer that question first. Amazon picks, they have all of them except for one. There's reasons. This has been a fun journey of learning, I tell you. So Amazon is like all of the books except for one. Barnes and Nobles has a majority of the books. Walmart.com has picked up some of the books. And then it's surprising when you enter like a book name and then my name, Elizabeth Sullivan, just on a search, all these random little bookstores that have it. So, but I could say Amazon, you're going to find most of them of all, and then Barnes and Noble, you'll find the majority of them as well.
Good. And
Now, what was
I
the other
actually,
question?
yeah, I'm sorry. I'll get to the question. The only reason I asked, I had people in the chat that were asking, they keep asking for the link. So I keep sending the one link that I have from your website, but just in case also, I want to let
Ah,
people know. So for anyone who's curious, Naxo, thank you for tuning in and checking us out and kicking it with us in the chat. We're speaking with Elizabeth, and if anyone is interested to learn more about Elizabeth and show her some love and support on what she's doing and check out the books that she has, I've shared the link in the chat. You can also go give her a follow on any of the social medias and the links that I've shared as well on either her, I believe I have your Instagram, your Twitter or X account, and in her bio, she also has the information where you could check out her work as well. Thank you for stopping by, Little Love. Thank you, Naxo. I really appreciate the love. What I wanted to ask you next is the question I was trying to get to, being that you have to, because it's not easy. I know like there's a lot of websites that you can go on and just upload your work and it'll automatically distribute them on all these other platforms and stuff. But when it comes to doing books and publishing stuff, I know that there's it's a completely different process. So how do you handle dealing with any setbacks when it comes to writing or publishing any of your stuff? And have you come across any setbacks when it comes to like you mentioned, like Amazon has all your books but one, or a specific things like that? Like when it comes to those setbacks, how do you handle it? Because I know as an author and being published and writing and all that, it's a totally different world. There's a lot of stuff with copywriting and all that. How do you handle those situations where you keep yourself from getting overwhelmed? Because I know a lot of things, like there's so much to learn about it and there's so much to keep in mind when you're trying to put stuff out there. How do you keep yourself from being overwhelmed and making sure that you handle it properly?
well, A, by not over dramatizing things. I can only control what I can control. And I need to move on to the next one right now. So if it doesn't work, well, at least it works on one and the book is out and you're gonna have to buy it on a different platform right now, things like that. But also being okay with not being perfect. Like one of my personal goals, there's punctuation issues. There's this one page in here that I don't know, I added an earpiece to his ear and it's so blatant and the rest is kind of blurry and it bugs me so much. And so I kind of want to go through my books later and do a little bit of edits, like correct the spelling issue and, just, but not letting perfection stop me has been really the thing. Like if it's go time and the book needs published and I don't notice it yet, I'm not right now I can't order author proofs because I don't have time for that. And so you have to be okay with things not being perfect. And when they're not perfect, at least I was still did it, at least like that part was checked. So that's one of the things it's funny because I would love to teach other people how to do what I'm doing, but because the way that I'm doing them is not right, maybe part of it's a fear of somebody being like, "Oh, that's not right." And the other part is showing a technique to somebody that is not really how you're supposed to do it. I'll give you an example. So when I'm designing them on Canva, I have like, it's the 6x9 format basically. And for some reason, I can't just download the design and plug in the PDF as the manuscript. For some reason, all of the different elements pop up as like, oh, this is out of this space. And like, there's all this red and yellow when it comes to the final approval. So what I do now, just to be honest, I copy it and I take the picture and I put it on another blank Canva thing. So I can't design anything because it's a picture of the picture.
Yep.
But therefore, it's taken all of the individual elements. They're not getting caught anymore
Yeah.
on that. So that is how I bypass that. It's not official. I'm doing something wrong. I don't have time to figure out what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, same thing. Something happened along the way with the ebooks. Literally after I think the fourth one or something, fifth, I don't know. All of a sudden, whatever I was doing, it wasn't accepting the format anymore. Right now, I don't really care about the ebooks. I want to get them out there in print, and I still have the digital files. So there's no more ebooks. Right now it's the print. It's still a book available, but I just didn't have time to figure that out. But there again, it's okay with not being perfect and just finding whatever does work anyways.
No, I agree with you. There's many times that I've come across things like that, and I say I gotta like ghetto rig it is what I call it, and you just gotta, you know what, you're not doing it the right way, but it's like it still works. So if it works, it works.
Yeah.
Just let's keep it moving as long as we're moving forward. So I totally understand you on that. We've been streaming for an hour and 12 minutes. We
Oh,
have
wow.
37 people tuning in right now. We got three people on Twitch. We got 4 people on YouTube. We have 30 people on X right now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, showing love, and kicking it with us in the chat. I really appreciate it. Again, for anyone who is tuning in and watching either live or watching this pre-recording or listening to this on any audio streaming platform, we are talking with Elizabeth. If you would like to learn more about her and support her in any way, check the description to go and follow her on any of her social medias, as well as to click the link that's in the description and in the chat to go and take a look at all her books that she's published and that are available to purchase right now. What I wanted to ask you next before we start getting ready to close things up, what are some of the biggest challenges you see in terms of integrating blockchain and AI education into traditional school curriculums?
Well, we already need to adjust our current curriculum. I
100%.
I
I
have a
agree.
different
I agree.
take here because, to be honest, I was homeschooled.
Okay.
So I got pulled out of first grade or after first grade. I was homeschooled. I took a few classes with the high school. They call them dual enrolled in order to do like biology and Spanish because my mom couldn't really teach us that. And we didn't have online schooling at the time. So I don't have a great idea of what the actual public education system is. But I have my idea of what it isn't. And I learned a lot. And I feel like we overstuff our brains with useless knowledge, and we have other things out there that we're actually going to be using that we really need to know. I firmly believe that blockchain and financial literacy is one of them. We
100%.
don't teach that. So, right off the bat, I know that these things are not going to be able to anytime soon be offered on the public education platform. The way in, however, is you still have a lot of self study students out there, homeschoolers like me, that want to learn other things or have particular interests, and I need to be able to provide maybe curriculum for them to know those things from the basics. Also, the perks of homeschooling and private education is the fact that there is more of a choice in what they are teaching kids. So a parent can choose to introduce their children to blockchain, and there needs to be something available for them. private education, they generally want above normal offered to their children. And this, I think, could fall into that. I don't know if I'm the one to bring education to that. I do think that it'd be fun to pair some sort of worksheets, curriculum components for the fifth graders. There are a lot of people, we talked earlier about looking around and seeing what other influencers are doing. And unfortunately, I did that in the education space. And I let a lot of those doubts get to me like, this has already been developed. They're already doing it this great. They already have partnerships. They already have followers and events. They have a team. I'm one person. I was homeschooled. You can start stacking up the reasons why not. I hope to be able to just put the reasons why along with the books. I feel like these are a foundation, and if it'll work, it'll work. If not, at least I followed my gut and brought what I could to the table. But as far as education goes, I think it's going to take that. It's going to take everybody bringing their piece of the puzzle to the table and making it available so that those that want to learn about it can adapt it and put it in their schooling and in front of their children. It's yeah.
I agree with you. What I wanted to ask you next, this is a question that I have because this is an idea that I've played around when it comes to blockchain and incorporated with education. Because I've been wanting to educate people in my own way, not fully, but just to give them a soft entry into the Web3 space and blockchain technology. Because I, just such as yourself, I believe that it's something that it's going to play a major role in our lives, and I think that it's something that everyone should at least have a small amount of information, at least how things are transferred and the knowledge of what a wallet is. I think they should know the basics of it because I strongly believe that it may not be the way that we utilize it today, but I think that it's going to play a major part in our lives, whether we want to or not. I think blockchain is going to replace the way that we use currency right now. I think that it's going to be utilized. It's going to be called something different, but it's going to be the same technology. And I strongly believe that everyone, just like you mentioned, it's something that we should know because in school, like you said, we don't even get taught financial literacy, and that's something that's really important. Like it's like you mentioned, there's a lot of things that we learn in school that is really useless, and we don't get taught the things that we should learn, which is something that we use every day. And I believe that when it comes to money and as well as blockchain technology, that's something that's going to play a major part in everyone's lives. And what I wanted to ask you is, what are your thoughts on the future when it comes to play to earn or play to learn, and the experience of that incorporated into blockchain technology? And what I mean by that is, like, I've had the idea of trying to basically attract more people into learning about blockchain through my podcast or whatever I'm doing by the whole play to earn thing, or where basically if they join the podcast and answer some questions on things that I'm asking, they'll be rewarded with a POAP. And the whole reason for that is everyone likes to win something. So I look at it like, if I can give them the experience of blockchain without the risk of a rug pull or losing money, they'll get more comfortable with the idea of it. So I thought of using POAPs. POAPs, you create a wallet, it's free. You get a little NFT, which is free, which is the POAP. And I believe in just that simple exchange and experience, you get the firsthand experience of, I feel like you understand it better by having that firsthand experience of accepting someone sending you a POAP or an NFT or creating your wallet and seeing how it works. You get a better understanding of how it all goes. And then I see a lot of other people that try to utilize that, but they use it with games. They'll tell people to play a game, and if they get a certain score, they'll win an NFT. Or like, so what are your thoughts behind that? And how do you feel towards that? Being that you're into educating, are you against that? Are you for it? Or do you have any thoughts towards that? Like, how do you feel about people that are utilizing play to learn or play to earn when it comes to their projects or trying to educate people with blockchain technology?
I think that they're just adapting something that has been proven to work. I mean, why do you play so hard in a championship? Because you want a medal. Why do you do the 5K run? Because you want to earn money for charity or for the t-shirt. Like it works. And so why not do it? I think POAPs are a great way to do it. To be honest, I see play to earn as something that is probably already naturally being incorporated in a sense with our kids with their games. I mean, they are going through all these quests and trying to. My son was chopping at something the other day, and he found a way to keep pressure on his mouse, so his character kept chopping so he could earn wood. I have no idea what was going on, but he was so happy when he got to like 18,000 or something like that. And it was literally play to earn. And so they're already doing it. The funny thing is, I think blockchain, unless you're getting something like a POAP, is going to happen behind the scenes anyways. I feel like the games that are getting more popular already are working on putting this in the back so that if you have a skin, you can resell it, and you create a skin, you can sell it, things like that. That's already naturally happening, and it has always worked. So why not use that to get people involved in your projects or the learning thing? I mean, there's got to be some sort of a reward system, and it's a great way to do it. And it's fun that you say POAP, by the way. Give you more alpha. I hadn't announced it yet, but that is the topic of August book. It is teaching the concept of POAPs.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm a big fan of POAPs. I really love it. When I got introduced to POAPs sometime like a year or so ago, I fell in love with it. And for a good time, I'm thinking about bringing it back. But for a good time in the first season of the podcast, I created a POAP for each guest speaker. And then I would give them out to anyone who came on and joined us live. And then at the end of the month, I would take, like, if you had anywhere from 3 to 4 POAPs, I would enter those people to get into a random raffle and give them something. So the reason I did it was, again, I wanted to try to utilize a reason for people not only to come in and participate, but to also give them that experience in the Web3 space without them worrying so much about buying an NFT or having to get crypto and paying gas and all that other stuff, because I feel like once you try to introduce someone, it's already bad enough and hard as it is to try to get someone to give crypto a chance or to create a wallet and NFTs and all that stuff. So when they start creating a wallet and then they see they got to get crypto, and then they see not only are they paying for crypto, but they're paying to transfer the crypto, and then they got to, like, all those little things start adding up, and people look at it like, yo, what am I doing? I'm just paying money to pay money to pay money to, but like, so it turns them off. So I try my best to find ways to give people that experience without spending and without digging in their pocket where they have to worry about, oh, where's this money going, and am I going to get my money back, am I wasting my time? Because I feel like that's a big part of it. And it's that's why I asked for the whole your point of view when it comes to the play to earn or play to or learn, is because I think about utilizing that a lot, not to trick people, but I feel like that's the only way you can give people to give it a chance, is by trying to like spoon feed them a little bit, by like getting them in it by an entertaining or a fun way. And then they don't notice that they're learning at the same time, and they already got the experience of creating this and that. They're like, yo, I already know how that works. Like, that's similar to this or that. It's no different than kids right now. Like, it's like you mentioned, kids are playing these games, and without them really realizing it, they're utilizing cryptocurrency in some type of way, and blockchain, or the idea of it, by buying the currency of the game and by transferring it for skins and for doing, like, so they're already in a way doing stuff with things that are like NFTs and things like that. They have the idea of it and the concept. They just don't understand that they're both one and the same, basically, just a different, there's different technology backing it in the background is basically what it is. But what I wanted to ask you before we get out of here, very important, what is your favorite book? You gotta have one. You're making all these. You gotta have one favorite book.
I do. I really like Robert Greene's work. I feel like 48 Laws of Power has been so fascinating, and it is so hefty, and I'm going through it again occasionally, and it took me quite a while to digest it. So the fact that going through it again and it's come up so often, it was kind of an aha moment into human behavior in general. So I gotta say 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is my favorite book. And it's actually illegal in prisons, which probably made me want to read it. Yeah, I was like, why? How?
I literally have the book right here next to me. That's why.
No way. Are you kidding? No, picture didn't happen.
Look. I'm so serious right here. See, oh, you can't see it. The filter doesn't let you.
No, but I see the yeah, there you go. Yep. So you know what I mean? That book is deep.
Yes, it is. It's a when you read it, the lingo of it is a little bit like, the more you read it, the more you get used to the lingo and you understand
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But the more and more you read it, like at first you're like, this book can't be really what people say it is. But then the more you read it, when you get through one chapter or another, even when you get halfway through a chapter, you're sitting there like, yo, this has happened to me, or I've done this, or people have done this to me. And it really opens your eyes. And then you realize, like, you think back to that situation, like, yo, really? That's what happened that day? Like, and it's a real mind fuck in all honesty.
Can
But
I
it
tell you this? I used the book though, like a while ago, actually when I was in the hospital. So after being intubated, you can't drink water like until you get your throat checked because you could like you could choke on it basically. The flaps don't really go back the right way right away. And I really wanted to drink water. I was tired. They give you a sponge and you could like suck on it, or you could have like this jello water. So it's thicker and I don't know, awful. So they had this water bottle to add water to the sponge and yada yada, and it's over there. And I remember in the book they were talking about like anything done in confidence. You have a better chance if you just say it confidently. And so this one random nurse came in one of the nights. She wasn't my main one. Just came to like hook up an IV or whatever. And she's like, "Can I get you anything else?" I was like, "Oh yeah, can you give me that bottle of water over there?" "Sure, no problem." Hands it to me. I took it slow. I was very careful, but oh, it was so good. Well, then my morning nurse came in the next day and she's like, "Who gave that to you?" And I
uh,
was like, "I don't know," because I didn't ask the nurse's name, so I didn't know who it was. And she's like, "Oh, it must have been some water fairy, huh?" I was like, "Must have been." So, but yeah, it was like one time where you find yourself actually using some of the technique. It's like, well, does that work if I say it in confidence? And sure enough, and then other moments in the book where you're like, wow, I really fell for that, or you see some of your environment for what it is. So
yes, yes.
I think that's so funny that you have the book too, and
It's
yeah,
it's a real eye opener. It really does. It
yeah,
makes you become more aware. I feel like after you read the book, you start picking up on little things, and it starts making you recall certain chapters of the book or certain things that you read, and then like you just start wait like it's weird because the book breaks things down in steps. And like when you see something happening or you think about it, it actually breaks down in those same exact steps. And that's what's really the mind fuck, that you look at it like, all right, there's really like a science to this thing. And someone took the time to study it and write it down on paper and give you the cheat sheet of like, look, this is what's going on. Like, be aware of
yeah.
this. So it is crazy, but I do love that book. I do. Um, the last thing I wanted to ask you that I feel like everyone tends to forget about or tends to put off and everything like that is when they're stressed or they're very anxious and just overworked or burned out. Like, what do you prefer, or what is your preferred way of unwinding and to decompress and de-stress yourself from your regular life as a creator, as a friend, a family member, as like anything that you have in your regular life, but also from doing stuff that you have a passion for, and from being like always, I have to be on time and my book needs to get done and I have a free second, so let me do this. Like, what do you do to really unwind, and what helps you like mute everything out and just give you your time to yourself? What's something that you do that does that for you and makes you free of all that you feel like other people should try practicing as well?
Well, I want to say on that note, my mentality isn't quite like that anyways. Like even if I'm off doing what I'm going to answer you that I do, I get to work on my book. I have a few moments. It just, I'm telling you, like the way that you approach things, and when you can redirect and reframe that verbiage in your head and actually start to think that way, it really works. So it's not, oh, this has to come out. It's not generally that stressful because it's always worked out in the end. It'll work out now, especially if I do my part. So it's not quite like that. But to unwind, I mean, I like to touch grass on the daily, but also I like music. I like live concerts. I love the way that how thousands of people can get on the same vibration and energy, and like you can just feel it. And the goosies within live music is, it's almost like skydiving, which I've done a couple times. It is like that endorphin level and that connection that you spend your entire life chasing. My band of choice is definitely Dave Matthews Band. I've been to, I haven't counted, it's over 40. I don't think I'm at 50 shows yet.
What?
But Well, my husband was a hardcore fan, and so when I met him and he starts mentioning all these places, I quickly realized like I like Dave's music, but if I like Dave Matthews Band, then I could see, the America, if I do that. And sure enough, I've been to almost every state, some amazing destinations just by going and watching, a show somewhere. And so it's actually my husband's in the pit right now without me. So I'm kind of bummed, but it's okay. We're here. So, so that would be my thing. Would be Dave Matthews Band and live music. This year I got to go see them in Europe.
Nice.
Last year, I got to go on a resort and see them, and it's so fun because when you go to a band that you really enjoy, so not only are you getting that like the vibration and the connection and just those endorphins feel good, but you're with like-minded people, so you always have friends around, like the hotel, walking down the street, you see the shirt, so it's you could be in a completely different country, completely different state, and yet not alone, and I like that part. So live music would be how I relax.
I love that. Music is a big thing for me also. I think that's music runs the world in my opinion. I
Yeah.
believe that's the only thing that I don't care what you're going through or what it is or what language you speak. When you hear it, you can understand it. It doesn't matter if it's your language or not. You can feel it, and it's something that I don't think anyone can really like. There's nothing else that replaces music. I don't care if it's a drug. I don't care if it's a roller coaster ride or anything like none of that. I think music can give you all those experiences with anything, with the words that you're hearing, with the sounds that are coming out of the speaker, especially if you're hearing it live. It's a totally different experience and there's nothing like it. But I totally agree with you. I think it's something about being able to be in that room or in that area and concert arena or whatever it is with a group of people, and you all know that you're on the same page and you're all vibing with one another on something, because those songs, they're deep, like the words that you hear and everything like that, like you can tell and you can feel the emotion behind a lot of songs, and it's really hard to try and replicate that feeling any other way. And when you hear someone that's gone through something you've gone through, like it really hits home, and it's some type of connection there that I don't think can be duplicated anywhere else. So I strongly agree with you on that. Music is a big thing for me as well.
And that's one thing that I really liked about Dave Matthews Band when I went to the concert. Like the lyrics, I'm a writer, like that hits deep. But turns out my soul has a saxophone. Like my soul vibrates with the saxophone. And there was just, I got to appreciate the instruments and not just the person singing and not just the words of the songs, And so that's another thing that live music brings in is like they can just go off on a tangent and nobody's singing, but your soul is dancing away. And it's just, that's really impactful. And I think that to have that kind of impact and not use words is pretty cool. It's just like body language. Like when you can pick up on a vibration of a person or a frequency that goes deeper than what's going to come out of their mouth.
100%. Elizabeth, thank you so much. We've been streaming for an hour and 33 minutes. We have 35 people tuning in with us right now. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and share about yourself and give us some very useful and educational information behind creating books and putting things out there, and how you're helping spread the knowledge and educate people on blockchain technology, Web3, NFTs, crypto, and all these amazing things. What I want to ask before we get out of here, is there anything that you're working on right now that you have coming up that's in the works that you would like to tell us about and give us a little alpha and a heads up of what you have that's in the future for anything that you're working on?
Well, you're a really good host because I already admitted that my next book is the concept is POAPs. And I did take the community's advice on this one. I had asked throughout the months, on X, like, what would you like me to write about? And a lot of people, in a sense, said mental health and offline, awareness. And so that was the initial goal. And then the blockchain concept ended up being POAPs through it. So that's what's going on. I would love to be able to offer a way, because I've hashtagged it VCon Readathon. And I would love to be able to offer a way to people to be able to get all 16 books at not a price that if they bought each one individually would be. And I think blockchain is the answer. VCon's only 20 something days away.
I know.
And I haven't published this one yet. So if what I want to happen can happen in time, great. But I need to focus on getting August's book ready. And then if there's time, I'd love to be able to reveal a way to get all 16 books to the Twitter community, to the X community, and all that. So we'll see. Hopefully, it'll happen in time for VCon.
And even that, I believe, to be honest with you, there's a lot of people. I've been interviewing a lot of people, talking to a lot of people. There's a lot of people that have a lot of things that they're planning following after VCon for whatever reason. Like, I was trying to do a lot of things leading up to VCon, during VCon, before VCon, and many other people had the same idea too. But now I see a lot of people, for whatever reason, pivoting. And the only reason I'm thinking of holding off is there's a good number of people that I know already have like a good foot in the door when it comes to VeeFriends, that they're really in like the know of like what's gonna happen next, and they've been pretty right about it. And from what I'm being told, there's something that's gonna happen right after VCon that's gonna be big. I don't know what it is yet, but apparently it's gonna be something. Maybe it's merch stuff related, or maybe there's some type of collaboration that's happening. But a lot of people are waiting until after VCon to start announcing things that they have going on. So I'm pretty sure even if you don't make it exactly during it, even if you do something a little bit after, I'm pretty sure you're still going to be good. And there's still going to be a pretty big wave to ride after that as well. So, but for anybody who's tuning in, once again, I appreciate all the love and support and everyone for hanging with us. If you would like to go and show some love to Elizabeth and check out her books and make a purchase and see what she's about and show us some love and support, please click the link that's in the description of wherever you're listening or watching this episode of Clocking Out Podcast. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here and giving us your time and sharing about yourself. I truly appreciate and support it. And as a member of the VeeFriends community, and as a parent, and as a person who's trying to be a creator and an entrepreneur of any kind, I'm truly inspired by your story. I truly appreciate what you're doing. I see the work that you're doing continuously. I see how you're very, very, you're consistent, and you're always showing up. You're always putting yourself out there. You're sharing your firsthand experiences, your stories, your good, your bad, your ups and downs. And I believe that's very important. I think a lot of us need more of that in the space. And just more people willing to put themselves out there and be honest and genuinely themselves. I don't think we have enough of that. So to see you doing that and just taking the initiative to actually help educate people in this space, I think it's a big thing. And I truly appreciate you for that.
Well, thank you very much. You're one of the real ones too. And I appreciate the invitation to be on and the connection. So thank you.
Thank you. And I always tell this to anybody, if there's anything I could do in the future, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm not the richest man or the smartest man in the world, but whatever I could do to help you out in any way, please let me know. My DMs are always out. I'm open. Just hit me up and let me know what it is, and I'll try my best to get it done. So thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in. I really love it. Thank you, Elizabeth. This has been Clocking Out. Have a great night, everyone. I love y'all. Stay safe. Peace.